Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this podcast series of Founderhood with one of our first subjects that came from our network of incubators and accelerators. One of the most concerning questions we heard from them having to do with how you can actually make an incubator, an accelerator, any innovation program pretty much being financial sustainable and how you can make this happen. Today, we are super excited to have both Pan with us. Do you want to say a few words, Yusuf?
Thank you, Konstantina, for inviting me. I'm honored to be here and happy to meet some new friends. My name is Yusuf. I'm the program manager at SuperCharger Ventures based in Malta. SuperCharger is the largest EdTech accelerator in the world and it's currently having different kind of verticals. One of them is backed by the Maltese government. So basically, it's an equity-free program that we select up to 30 companies per year. We have so far more than 1,000 applications to join this program. It's a very refreshing and different way of handling an accelerator program because it's equity-free. We don't take anything from them. We just try to support them as much as possible. A bit about my background. I grew up in Jordan. I'm originally Italian Jordanian, so it's a weird mix. Growing up, I always loved helping people more than being myself under the spotlight. I studied engineering and then I graduated. I moved out of Jordan, lived in 4, 5, 6 different countries in the past 5 years. I tried to start my own startup. I had my own startup for 2.5 years in Copenhagen, also an edtech startup called Leia. For now, it's rest in peace, but in the future, we will see. Leia has been my first trial in the entrepreneurship world. Before Leia, I didn't even know how to pronounce entrepreneurship. So now, at least I am there. I learned a lot. And then I decided to continue in this field because I really enjoy it. So I applied to join Supercharger. I moved from Denmark to Malta, and it's been a bit more than a year. Exciting. I already met more than 30 startups and interviewed more than 100. That's a bit about me. I like to think about myself as a bridge. I like to bridge startups with opportunities and also people with growth and learn.
Amazing. And I think that the most interesting lesson I heard as being part of a startup myself is one of the most difficult ones. Putting your startup in rest in peace mode is the most difficult lesson you can learn.
I agree with you, but I still think it's part of the
Of the
maturing
process.
because you reach some point sometimes that you're just kicking a dead sheep or a dead horse. That's not going anywhere. At the end of the day, we always think that our startup is us, but it's not.
You're totally right on that. Pani, let's hear about you as well, what you do, all those wonderful things you're doing all year round.
Thanks a lot. Nice to meet you, Yusuf. Thanks a lot for the invitation, Constantina. I'm always happy to help with all initiatives. I'm in the media innovation space the last 20 years. I was from corporate positions to a few independent media. Nowadays, within 25,000 social media followers. We do also for the local scene here in Cyprus, the Panis meetups. It's an event that startups comes and they network with investors. Anybody is welcome, either also from other regions or countries, to visit one of our meetups. The other thing that we're launching very soon will be a new independent media that will be generating news about early stage startups with AI and curated this news through editorial. In the past, we have interviewed more than one people the last 10 years, from investors, innovation program managers, the founders, etc. I think the startup world is very interesting. It's a world that fits actually to my profile. I'm a risky person. I take a lot of risk. Had a lot of figures to share, some successes to share. At this moment, personally, I don't know what success is. I always enjoy the journey. It's nice in journey to act as a mentor or a judge. Always try to enjoy the journey and try to help pro bono a lot of startups also in the past through me some major acquisitions and networking, especially in Cyprus. One of the things that I do is that I open doors they cannot. And I think that's also easier for us journalists to open the door instead of other people 9 out of 10 people that you're going to ask for an interview or for something will say yes. Is there, let's say, 10th out of these people that they're more difficult to approach and have a talk with.
You mentioned a very interesting point. How do you find different innovation ecosystems around the world? Do you see as entrepreneurs being the same in Cyprus, Portugal, or wherever around the world?
To be honest, I think it's the culture of any country, any region, some cultural differences for sure. But at the end of the day, for an entrepreneur, it's about never give up. But it's about also understanding what Yusuf said. It's better to close something fast and build something else instead of dwelling on it, maybe losing money of it. I have done both also in my personal endeavors. I have dwelling projects that they didn't go very well. I have closed projects very fast because I have seen that the work wasn't to be reach anything. Of course, all these processes, and I call it, I mean, it's education. It's an educational journey for everybody, either an investor, etc. There is ecosystems that they are more mature, of course. Silicon Valley, some more ecosystems, and Israeli ecosystem, and some others, of course, that are more mature. For example, in Cyprus, Cyprus is a bit unique because right now we have a mature ecosystem that is running. Most of these ecosystems running by expat founders that they came here. Our ecosystem is just to drive early stage companies and mostly CPOs that they don't have this other network where we have also inside this the whole ecosystem of founders that they're working, with Silicon Valley, with other regions. They're raising a lot of funds. So they have the whole network of investors to work with. The nice thing that we're trying is us here in Cyprus teach this ecosystem to work together. In terms of GDP, the IT sector now is around 40 to 50% in the GDP of the country. That is growing. The ecosystem, especially foreign interest companies that came here, they want to take their GDP and become the main driver, even more than tourists in the country. Let's see what happens. I mean, ecosystems are very interesting to see. Maybe you said also some things from Malta or other insights on this.
Yeah, I think you have also experienced that, especially with nowadays programs that you're running, that it's not only in Malta, it's pretty much all over the world. I'll bring it back to today's topic. What do you consider as the top 3, top 5 challenges that an accelerator incubator can face when it comes to being economically sustainable? What are the top things that are worrying you?
When people usually think about accelerators, they think about equity, right? So they think about supporting startups for an X period of time, taking equity, and then giving them money. I have experienced that firsthand with my startup. I joined Antler as an accelerator in Copenhagen, which for those of you that are not very familiar, Antler is one of the world's largest early stage accelerators. They usually have a fixed ticket for a number of startups. They work with startups as early as an idea, even without a team. And then help them find a team, they help develop an idea, an MVP, and then they invest around 100,000 euros in the startup, and then they take 10% equity. So this model is a classic model. It's also called spray and pray. You distribute your money in as many startups as possible, as early as possible. At least one of them might become big and replace the loss that you had from the other 95% of the investment. As an example, our startup, they invested in us, and after 2 years, we closed. They lost their money, basically. But that's part of the business model that they have. Because if they are the first investor, then if the startups become, let's say, 10 million, they own 10, that's already break even. And then if they become 100 million, they do 10x. So it's a very interesting model. It's a very empowering model for early stage ideas and early stage startups, because it takes just some people that want to try, and they're willing to work super hard. But then at the end of the day, you might have enough money to build something out of an idea and actually not become homeless, still pay yourself enough to survive. So I'm always like the biggest fan, because it changed my life basically, and and I'm very grateful for this model. This model, however, it's not ideal because nothing is perfect. One of the main challenges of this model is that when you run an accelerator, knowing that at the end of the day, an X amount of the startups in the accelerator will get the money, then everything is a show. You have to show your potential. You have to show that you're strongest. It's like a small jungle. You always feel observed by the zookeepers, by the accelerator team, because they are taking notes about everything. If you are working well with your founders, if you're working with others, if you take advice, you take feedback, you adjust, and all of this. It was an amazing experience, but at the same time, 3 months were very heavy mentally and physically, because we were working almost 20 hours or like 15 hours per day trying to build a product as soon as possible. Now, this is one of the challenges from a startup point of view. From an accelerator point of view, actually, SuperCharger started with equity. So we were taking equity from online cohorts. This really depends on the sector and the field that you're in. For example, if you are working with fintech or green tech right now, it's super hot. There's a higher chance that your company will or 100x in 3 to 5 years. And there's a high chance that it's going to exit because you, as an accelerator, your main goal is your company gives you back your money X amounts. You want to support, you want to cheer for them, but at the same time, the company does not do that, goes down, then you're losing money. With EdTech, the problem is that if you invest, let's say 100K or 200K for an equity, the chances that this company goes, becomes big or huge, they're not that many. And there's not that much money in EdTech in general. So from one side, yes, it's amazing to become expert in one specific field and to become the leader in that field in EdTech. But then we realized that maybe equity was not the right way at this stage. So we pivoted a bit. We had 7 online cohorts before. Then we made this collaboration with the Maltese government to basically build this ecosystem in a way that at the beginning, yes, it's not 100% sustainable, but it's something that we are creating until we reach to a point that there's enough mass in terms of startups that ecosystem supports itself. So right now we're selecting companies that the government will pay for their stay for 3 months in Malta. It's an equity-free program. Neither us nor the government takes any equity. So this allowed us in less than 2 years, actually a year and a half, to start picking companies that are staged into going into Series A or like into really growth. This means that the ecosystem itself is growing incredibly fast because the startups, no matter how big they are, still see an opportunity. However, if we started from the beginning taking equity or money from them, you will only attract the early stage startups or the smaller startups. Because then this way, the bigger ones, no matter how much money you give them, it's too much that you ask from, and they don't have enough shares left. So this model, we've seen it's amazing. Then we pivoted, or not pivoted, we added to that, which we're starting in 2025 again, online cohort for super early stage start. And then from them, we take equity. For the online one, it's easier for us to scale if it's online. We take equity from as early as, we have an MVP. And then once they become bigger, enough traction, enough money, we take them to the Maltese one.
Interesting also to hear that equity is not always the answer to staying sustainable and being viable for the future, that other alternatives also exist, because exactly as you said, it's not a one size fits all solution. Pani, do you think media collaboration with innovation programs could increase the possibility of a bigger exposure and support their journey to financial sustainability as well?
Yeah, having a good connection and visibility from media is always good. Of course, this should not be your main driver. One of my advice that I give to other startups is that when you have something to say, there's newsworthy, etc., then contact the media and try to be there all the time. I have seen also the projects that they were in the media all the time, but at the end they did it with maybe even product or even they were scamming people, etc., but doing all the media work and didn't do the product work. I would say focus on building your product. Media will come. Say it's good to find also a few media that actually make sense to your case, to your industry. You need to build real relationships with a few journalists. You don't need a lot. But there are people that they will track your stuff maybe every 6 months. or write about you. So it's a bit different. You're trying to start different stuff. You need to pitch a feature of your product. You need to find the right journalist to do it. Journalists, they have, like a niche that they write about, and so they focus maybe in an industry, or they focus on writing the stuff. For me, I'm focusing more on writing founder stories. For example, I like to investigate labs, what innovations they bring to market. This is the things that I like to talk about, especially with AI and what is happening. So you need to make a lot of research before contacting journalists. If you can get an intro to the journalist, again, it's nice. If not, you can see where the journalist is more active. Now, a lot of it used to be X, Twitter. Now, a lot of them are living and going to Blue Sky because of all the reasons with Elon Musk. Other journalists, for me, I'm active everywhere. If you send me a message in any channel, probably I will answer at one point of time. But yeah, I mean, having also is the same with the accelerators. You need to have a conversation with the media when you want to push your startups. The same with investors. There is blogs, for example, in Europe, there is TPDU that writes a lot about funding deals, about startups that they write. There is ways to pitch your stories there. But I want to say something on what Yusuf said. A successful investor and a networker said to me that if you want to become very rich from investing in start, you are in the wrong world. Then go to real estate and you know the returns, I mean, the startup world, it's a totally risky world. That's why I have friends' stories that they have invested in projects. They have like 50K that they never expected. I actually have a story. One of the biggest, they told me when we put money in Twitter, we never expected that Twitter would make an IPO. Sometimes also it's timing. It's a lot of stuff because you invest in general in the startup, you invest in the team, not in a fixed asset like in real estate. And the last thing, we are all brands, either personal brands, either accelerator brands, either startup brands. As we have seen brand sales, if you take Apple, the big brands, they don't sell because nobody is buying Apple products because the products actually the last years are not so very good. You buy because you love the brand, and you love the network and and other stuff.
What you are both saying, it gives me another perspective I have never thought about. That incubators and accelerators themselves, they are following an innovative journey, similar to how a startup is growing, that I have never before actually realized. Yusuf, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
add first on Panis about basically investing in startups and waiting money right away. It's not the right expectation. This is one of the main things that we try to teach the local ecosystem in Malta. Not teach is a big word, but discuss with the local ecosystem that no matter how good you are as an investor in startups, you will not reach the outcomes that you expect from investing in real estate. Because here the biggest investors, they just keep building new second homes for tourists and all of that. And of course, yes, you build it next month, you start getting money back, and that's forever, right? So if you expect that from startup, that's already the wrong approach. This is the first thing. The second thing we have in Europe is that we are playing the US game. We're playing the Silicon Valley game, the New York game, but that doesn't apply in the majority of cases to the market in Europe, right? It's a completely different game. The founders are not willing to risk as much as in the US, where they put credit card debt, their house on loans, and it's fine, it's fair. It's just that you need to expect also different results as an investor, and as a founder, you need to expect different numbers. Because if you expect the same numbers because you read them on a specific website that shows these results, you're already in the wrong game because it's not going to be the same. You're not going to be able to raise the same amount of money for the same traction, for the same results. And then as an investor, you should not expect the same from a startup in Malta or in Cyprus or in Germany or anywhere, the same as you expect from the US. Then just a second point for you, Constantina, talking about, I saw it from two different points, from a startup point of view and from running an accelerator point of view. It's a mess. There are so many different things that the founder don't know about. I'll give you an example. We were running an accelerator, waiting money from the government while having to run the accelerator, the cost and everything. And we almost ran out of money. So we had to push everything out. We had to do a lot of like logistic stuff, but we could not share that with anyone. An accelerator is also a startup. You have to adapt and keep running. And I think that's why the best people that work in accelerators are previous founders, because they understand that this is part of the process. You just have to calm down and put a face
They
on that
get
everything
the
is
pain
perfect.
of the game. Yeah.
Exactly. It's super fun, but at the same time, sometimes it's very stressful. We had instances where some companies were about to get canceled from the program because they did not attend the minimum amount by maybe 1 or 2 days, because they're waiting for their visas. So their visas came like 1 or 2 days before they were canceled from the program. We were acting like, yes, it's all under control. They will get the visa. They will reach Malta. Everything will be perfect. Of course, we didn't know that, but it worked out at the end.
I'm actually glad we brought it there, because just like startups, when we started also as Founderhood, from the very, very first day of working with it, one of the things you have in mind is also your finances, sustainability, how close you are into being sustainable, and what can you do towards that direction. Is this same for innovation programs? Have you both seen this in the programs you have worked with being a concern from day one, or it comes later on?
It's always a concern from day -1. As soon as you start a startup and raise the first round, you're dying, right? Your life is like the life bar is going down, and you need to reflect. This is something all founders have to become comfortable with until they reach profitability. They start from the beginning going bootstrapped and live with the pace of that method. If I ever start a startup again in the future, I will not raise from VC. I will try my best to find something that I can sell from day one. Once that is proven, then yes, I can maybe scale it. But one of the biggest mistakes I've seen early stage founders do is rely on money. Then they build their KPIs, their products on getting extra money, and they forget about the customer.
The
They
customer.
forget about who will actually pay your product, right? It's not the investor, it's the user, it's the customer that will pay your salary. The problem is that the person who's paying you will also have a say in the matter. They will start giving you feedback that thinks is best for you about how the product and how the KPI should be. And then at the end of the day, maybe it's not that. You're basically stuck into, I don't want to listen to my parents, but I'm living in their house, right? In the same situation where I need to move out. So financial sustainability for startups is part of the game, as you said. It's part of, yes, you need to raise, but also you need to make sure you know what are your main KPIs, and when you need to push back, you need to push back. And you also need to understand when you should stop raising and from who you should raise money, because not everyone that gives you money is the right investor. Some
Valid
people, they
point.
just 100%. And this is
Yeah.
one of the hardest truths that you learn, that you might get money from an investor and now they're in your cap table forever until you find a way. And they're not the right people. They don't have the right motivation. Like Pani said, their motivation is just being an angel investor or putting it in their LinkedIn. But at the end of the day, they don't add anything to you.
Which brings exactly to, sometimes the easy answer to say is, yeah, let's find an investor, an angel investor, a VC firm, anything to support us economically, whether we are standing on the innovation program side or on the startup side. But how easy?
Constantina, I will agree with Yusuf, especially if a startup thinks that finding an investor will solve the financial problem, eventually will fail. The startup needs to focus on doing sales. We speak with investors that used to be founders and then became angel investors or venture capital funds like Comic or rather the big guys in Europe, especially, or in US, everywhere in the world. They will say to you that let's focus on doing sales, focus on your customer, because when you build a solution, you always need to have interaction with your community, with your customer. That's why community startups are very important to build from day one, especially in media and marketing. This community will help you when things are going bad. So from a perspective of the accelerator, I will say you always need to have this in mind. Don't enter an accelerator if you don't know how to run the program, how you make it economically viable. At the end of the day, for an investor or an accelerator, it's a game. It's a games number. It's a games number, but again, you need to put the right amount of time to help the startups that will enter your accelerator, open networks for them, them do more sales, help them find more opportunities. And if the team is good, then you will succeed. Now I'm partnering up with an accelerator that they give me growth lab, help me startups, get to some projects, B2B projects. To this moment, I was putting personally a lot of time from Bono on this. But now I decided I will enter the startup. We have some startups that I need to help. After I will get equity and I nurture this project much more through our personal network. And should be the approach for any accelerator, for any investor to be there next to the founder and not to be just putting money. And of course, we're not going to build the startups. The founders will build the solution. But we need to be there to, especially people like us that have a global network, to open the doors for them and help them facilitate all these success and help them also in the difficult journey that they will have as a startup founder, because the emotional roller coaster, I know it also from personally, I'm in one company like this. The emotional roller coaster, it's huge, and you need to help them during the difficult.
Makes a lot of sense. And every time we're mentioning sales, I see Yusuf bringing up reactions, thumbs up, hearts, everything.
100%. I mean, this is something 2 years ago I didn't know. I thought the most important thing is product. Building the best product you can and that people will love. This is very important, but there is nothing as important as sales. If you are able to sell the core problem that you're solving, then you have a potential winning idea and a winning start. This is something that I learned the hard way, and it's something I see in a lot of the startups that are successful in our accelerator. Everyone like is on sales. The CEO, the CTO, the CPO, is the marketing, that everyone, there's some stage of time that everyone is selling, right? Because if you don't have that, you're not learning and you're really not tapping into the full potential, and you cannot reach the KPIs to even fundraise in the future.
Yeah, I have seen this happening more than once. If you don't manage to bring your product or your service to your users, then the growth is not actually there. I couldn't agree more with that. On the supportive side from you as accelerator managers, have you seen any difficulty into finding not only the investors, but like the right investor for every startup you're having in your cohorts?
Finding the right investor.
It takes a full ecosystem, right? This is again going back into that same topic we're discussing, and it's very similar between Cyprus, Greece, and Malta. Because at the end of the day, it's an island that the number of people that are living in there are limited. So there's two things. You need to educate the people that are there, specifically the people with money, and you need to bring people from outside to that island. So these are the two important things for the ecosystem. Because if you educate the people that have money and have the potential of doing that, of angel investing or VCs and stuff like that, then you have already people from inside that are investing. And once you start bringing people from outside, you're also building awareness about the potential in Malta. It just takes one huge company like Spotify, let's say as an example from Sweden, to spark this and start other big companies coming. Now, from a startup point of view, one of the biggest challenges is to find people that are willing to believe in you, to follow your journey, take a back seat if needed, and help you open doors. Like Pani said, is one of the most important things, because you always want an investor that if you ask them, do you have another 10 rich friends? They will say yes. They care about the product, they care about your team. And at the end of the day, it's all about the team, honestly. Because if the investors, specifically angel investors, believe in the team, they will feel they're one of them. We've met some investors that I didn't know they were investors. I thought they were like another employee. For VCs is a different game, because VCs, the most relevant role that they have is when you have a fundraise, when you have a new round, then they have to decide. They either contribute to that round again, or find you other investors that can contribute in bigger rounds. Because if you don't raise, they lose money. So they need to help you, right? But the biggest challenge is trying to find the ones that are willing to support you and care about you and the product that you're building. That is not just a way for them to make money, because this is too long as a side. Now, the challenge in Malta is that there's not a lot of angel investors that are aware of the tech side yet. It's growing, but it's still very early. For our demo days, we bring around 20 to 30 investors from other countries, and they get to meet our startups, but also the Maltese startups. So it's a way also to improve the ecosystem. And it's been amazing, to be honest.
Glad to hear that. Because we have the opportunity nowadays that you are not constrained into your local resources. You can enter a more global market with its ups and downs, because being globally exposed has its challenges.
Investors like venture capital funds, they want to see global scale up, and that European industry that will scale up and will invest usually in their country, invest in projects from their country, and a smaller and, let's say, more new ecosystem, and especially small countries, they don't have this angel investor scene. It's not mature, it's not, for many reasons. For example, now in Cyprus, expect some founders that they have made money to come back and create their own angel investor network. But again, when you are angel investing, because the network that we cooperate, Altimus is an angel investor network investing, they have a few exits the last 15 years. But angel investors yet are not so global oriented, to be honest. And if you speak with networks in different countries, you'll see that usually they will put the money in projects from the founder of their country, etc. So I interview a lot of people. I have heard stories of how they raise money. In your question, finding the right investor is like a marriage, that also the ultimate between the startup founder, the investor should be right, the chemistry. It's a lot of things to find the right investor. It's not about an intro. We can make intros as net, but at the end of the day, I know a story, for example, that when one of the biggest startups with a secret founder got acquired, they just got a call. They were holidays in Mykonos, and they just get a call. I'm sending my private plane to get you and bring you back in my country. So we'll sign it. I will acquire you. And other stories, over drinks, people are signing. So it's not a straightforward process, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Before we wrap it up for the day, I want to make a small challenge to you both. I'll start with you, Panis, having a big experience in journalism yourself. If you had to make one question to Yusuf, what would this be?
Please don't
No,
ask about love.
I would be interested to know about your fund, and if you invest in global projects, so anybody can apply to that program from anywhere in the world, or it's just open for Maltese companies. And the other interesting, why do you work with governments?
I will start with the last question. So we support the Maltese government for an exchange of revenue. They pay us X amount of money for each startup, right? Each successful startup that reaches Malta, we help selecting them. We run the program for the Maltese government for 3 months. And then we have a specific KPI with how many companies will eventually decide to apply to the different funding schemes that the government offer and relocate to Malta.
The program that anybody can go.
So yes, so
Yeah.
to the first question, it's a program that any company in the world can apply to as long as they are in education technology or future of work. Teaching people how to learn, teaching people how to work, or helping them work better. This can be HR tech, productivity, teaching people how to train their dogs, or in schools, university. It's a very wide range for education. We select the companies that we believe have the highest potential of not just becoming the next unicorn, because this is a side thing for the Maltese government. The most important thing is that if they come to Malta and they can hire between 5 to 10 people in the next 3 to 5 years. So if they are able to showcase this motivation and get extra funding from the government to cover part of the salaries of these people, then they're actually creating opportunities in the island. They're bringing talent from overseas to here, and they're hiring people locally, which is the most important thing.
This program is connected with the visa.
We also help them get visas, either for the program or long term with the government. So I'll tell you as an example, last cohort that ended 2 weeks ago, we had 14 companies from 14 different countries, including Armenia, Nigeria, Turkey, Italy, UK, and a lot of other European countries, but also Egypt. The most interesting thing is when you mix these people, you put them in an incubator for 12 weeks, living in the same block of apartments, doing the same activities. Like back to school, we have a bus that takes them, we have a bus that delivers them, we have activities in the weekends and during the cohort. The amount of collaborations that there is between these countries, it's just incredible. So once we started opening these opportunities to different countries that usually doesn't have opportunities in Europe, the next cohort, when we opened it, the number of applications tripled, because we see that now we have a successful case study from a government that is supporting the best people and the best startups in the world. And then these startups in their country, they started learning about this and they started applying.
As long as you start giving impact, it's the best.
Yes, I mean, as long as you give.
That's a great program. Hopefully, we'll do it also.
We're trying our best to expand to other countries, the same model, because for the government, the amount of money spent on the accelerator is not that much. And the impact that it could have in the next 5 years is building a full ecosystem.
Yusuf, do you have a question to make to Panis?
Yes, of course. If you would build a new startup right now, what would the 3 things that you would do?
The first things, okay, find a co-founder, do sales before even launch the startup, if possible, and build something that actually makes sense for the future, especially if I plan to go to investors. Now, if I'm going to build a bootstrap startup, then it's different. Okay, I will focus more on sales. Also, testing will come into the process as you start to do a lot of research on what is out there, how you can build something different. This is the main 3 points that this is what I'm doing now with our new program. Actually, new model is to try to save that business model in between startups to buy AI generated content instead of having someone else to generate for them and get also leads out of this project.
I see some more celebrative emojis coming up here. Thank you both for joining today. I think I could keep up the discussion for at least 1 more hour. I'm super happy to have you both. Hope you also enjoyed this journey.
Keep innovating.
Thank you.
Happy
Nice to meet you guys.
2025.
You too. Talk again in 2025, Constantina. Thank you.